Hello and welcome to section 4 of unit 8. All right, so we are moving on with exponents and talking more about fractions and radical form. So how do we write the square root of 11 in exponential form? So exponential form means it has an exponent instead of a radical sign. So 11 to the 1/2 would be the same as the square root of 11, because remember the top number is the exponent, so 11 to the 1 is just 11, and then the bottom, the denominator, is the outside or the root number. So if you do not see a number out here, there's always an imaginary 2. So to write the square root of 11 in exponential form, that would be 11 to the 1/2. So example 1, simplify the following into n exponent with a fractional power. So exponential form is the way I say it. So 27, what power does 27 have? 1. And then what's the root? 1/3. So we could simplify this, but it just wants us to put it in this form. So, and we could simplify all of these, but we're just putting them in exponential form so you guys see what that looks like. So what power is 32 to the 1, and then the root is 5. 81 has an exponent of 1 and a root of 4, so 81 to the 1/4. So remember, the numerator, the top number, is the exponent. The denominator is the root. So exponent goes on the inside, root goes on the outside of the radical. So example 2, write each exponential expression in radical form. So that means we're going to have when I say radical form, that means we have a radical sign. So this is the root, this is the exponent. The base always goes on the inside with the exponent. Since the root is 2, you do not have to write a 2 here. You can if you want, but you don't need to write a 2 there. All right, so that one's pretty straightforward. The next one, 2x to the 1/3. This one's a little trickier because if you look here, what's the exponent on 2? Does 2 have an exponent of 1/3? It does not. 2 has an exponent of 1. So that means 2 is just going to stay by itself. X is the exponent with 1/3. So we're still going to have a radical. The root is 3. The exponent for x would be 1, but you don't have to write 1. So that's how you'd write that in radical form. So it's kind of weird because 2 does not have the 1/3. Now if this was in parentheses, that would be different, like on the next example. So 16x, all in parentheses, to the 5/2. So that means 16x is the entire base, so that's going to go inside of the radical. Its exponent is going to be 5. Root would be 2. If you wanted to write 2, you can, but you don't have to. And then again, parentheses. So that means that's the base. Whoops, I forgot the y. So 54y will have an exponent of 3 and a root of 5. So if I was trying to solve this, this 5 means that I need 5 of the same number inside of here in order to have something come out. But all it did was write in radical form. All it said was to write in radical form, so that's all I had to do. So moving on to the next page, write each radical expression in exponential form. So again, this is the exponent, this is the root, so t to the 2/3. This one's a little trickier. So 6 is out here by itself. So that means this 6 is not part of the fraction in its exponent. 6 just has an exponent of 1. But h is the base with the exponent, or with the fraction in the exponent. So its top number is 4, its root is 3. So we'd have 6h to the 4/3. Gosh, I can't talk. All right, next one gets even more tricky. So all of this stuff is under the radical. So that means all of this stuff has an exponent of 1/4. However, we could simplify, and it doesn't really say. We could simplify these two things, or at least I could simplify the a to the 8. So 16 to the 1/4. So I got 8 on the inside, 1/4 on the outside. So that means I need to multiply those two together. So 8/1 times 1/4 would be 8/4, which is 2. So 16 to the 1/4 times a squared would be your answer. We could simplify this even more. This would just be 2, but I'm not going to do that. All right, so now we're going to simplify the numbers as much as we can. So this tells us that we're looking for 3 of the same number inside of the radical. So whenever we have a root, if we need to simplify the number, we like to have it in radical form because it's a lot easier. If it's in exponential form with a fraction, that's tough to simplify. So another way to write 1,000 would be 10 times 100. Another way to write 100 is 10 times 10. So 10 times 10. So notice, we're just looking for 3 of the same term. So we got 3 10s, 2 of those go away, 1 come out. So remember, when we are looking for 3 of the same thing, or 4 of the same thing, or however many of the same thing, only 1 will come out. The rest will go away. There's nothing left inside of the radical or under the radical, so I don't draw the radical sign anymore. My answer is whatever has come out, which is 10. So the answer is 10. On this next one over here. So again, if I'm trying to simplify this, I'm going to want it in in radical form. So 64 is the base. So exponent is 1. You don't have to write the 1 there, but just putting it there to show you. The root is 6. This 6 tells us that we need 6 of the same number under the radical in order to simplify for something to come out. So two numbers that multiplied equal 64 are 8 and 8. So I need 6 of the same number. I only have 2 so far, so that's not good enough. I know that 2 times 4 is 8. So 2 times 4 and then another 2 times 4. Still don't have 6 of the same number, but I can break down the 4s. So I have a 2, and then 4 is 2 times 2. And then I have another 2. And then 4 again is 2 times 2. So now let's count how many numbers I have. These are all the same numbers. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I got 6 of the same number here. So I'm going to circle all of those. One of those is going to come out. The other 5 all go away. There's nothing left under the radical, so I'm not going to draw the radical sign anymore. My answer is just whatever came out from under the radical, which is 2. So the answer would be 2. So 125 to the 4/3. So if I'm trying to simplify this number, I want it in radical form. So the root is 3 because the denominator is 3. So 125 to the 4th will be on the inside here. So one way that I can do this is I'm looking for 3 of the same thing. I'm just going to leave that 4 alone for now. I happen to know that 5 times 5 times 5 is 125. So notice we have 3 of the same number here. So if you wanted to, well, I'm not going to do that. So we got 3 of the same number. 2 of those go away. 1 comes out. Nothing is left on the inside. So I just have 5 to the 4th come outside, and that's my answer. But 5 to the 4th would be 625. So our answer is 625. So 81 to the 3/4. So again, if I'm trying to simplify this number, if I have a number to a fraction as an exponent, I want to put it in radical form. So the root is 4. 81 is the base, the exponent is 3. Trying to find 4 of the same number. So I'm going to leave this 3 alone. I know that 9 times 9 is 81, but now I only have 2 of the same number. I need 3. I also know that 3 times 3 is 9, and then 3 times 3 is 9. So now we have 4 of the same number. We've got 4 3s. 3 of those 3s go away, only 1 comes out. But don't forget to attach the exponent to it. So 3 to the third will be our answer because there's nothing left on the inside of the radical. And 3 to the third is 27.